Hello and welcome to another episode of The Thriving Metabolism, where we discuss everything that impacts your hormones and metabolism so that you can take control, repair the damage, and lose weight consistently without making yourself miserable in the process. It's my mission to empower you so that you and your metabolism thrives and you never have to go through diet misery again. I'm Louise, registered nutritional therapist, weight loss expert, and founder of the Nourish Method to lasting fat loss. Today we have got a special guest, and it is Christelle Page, who is a member of my team within the Nourish Method. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so we've got Christelle here on the podcast today, and Christelle is a registered nutritional therapist, and she works with us inside the Nourish Method with our clients. And I wanted to get Christelle on podcast because she, I think, has a backstory that a lot of listeners will resonate with and will see kind of a lot of things in themselves that Christelle has kind of been through on her kind of her health journey over the past few years. So welcome, Christelle. Perhaps you could start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what your health journey has been like and what led you to specialize in weight loss.
Okay, so thanks for having me, Louise. So let's start with the start. So I'm French. I'm in my mid-40s, and I have two girls who are 13 and 10. And being French, obviously, I was brought up on carbs. Typical diet was, for instance, rusk for breakfast, a tin of, ravioli in tomato sauce for lunch. Then we have like the goûter, which is the 4 o'clock break, and it was typically a baguette with some butter and chocolate. And then dinner was something usually with potatoes, and obviously being French, lots of gluten in the, in my diet, baguette and pastries and so on. So I've been in the UK for now 20 years, but lots of my, being brought up in France was just relying on this kind of diet. And really, just like when it comes to weight loss and image around weight, it all started with a really flippant comment from a family friend when I was 10, just like probably carrying a bit of puppy fat, but that just triggered something in me. And then just from there, it's like, okay, from 15 years old, pretty much just been on various diets, trying to, just like look good on vacation and things like that. So just crazy diet from like having green coffee and grapefruit to going to weight loss clubs, relying on fat-free products, artificial sweeteners. What else did I do? I did Dukan, which is a high protein diet. I did a blood type diet, calorie counting. I probably had some orthorexia as well, which is an eating disorder, but it was not diagnosed. So just like it's to the point of just like orthorexia is being really obsessed around healthy food and almost to the point of, just not eating anything that is just a bit slightly out of what, just labeling those food good and bad. In my 30s, I had my first child. I put on 3 stone, which I lost actually with diet and exercise. And then after my second child in my mid-30s, everything changed. I wasn't able to lose the weight. I went to an endocrinologist, so I was put on NDT, which is the thyroid medication, the natural desiccated thyroid. I was put on metformin, and after 1 year, I'd only lost 1 kilo. So that was just not really worth the medication, and I did something stupid. I went cold turkey, which I wouldn't advise to do, but that's what I did. From there, just like the health just like went down. I wasn't able to function. I couldn't even I didn't have the energy to even put a washing machine on. I was crying all the time. I went to the GP and I was diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So that was in my late 30s. I was teetotal at the time, so I didn't have any alcohol. So I couldn't understand, or I didn't understand what was non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. There's there's a lot of reasons for that, but for me, clearly it was just like having too many carbs, and also the gluten was not great. It's different for everyone, but the GP managed that with I was offered antidepressants, which I just refused. And I did my own research a bit, and I just turned that around in about 6 weeks. The liver is amazing. It's a really forgiving organ. It can regenerate. So it's like really reducing my carbs in my diet just really helped me. Went back to the GP, and he said, well, that's great. What have you done? So I explained what I did, and he said, oh, well, that's great, but we can't really advise it. So that was just like, that's it. And that's when that was a turning point for me. I decided to study nutrition. I was just like, I can't, let other people just being in similar situation, and knowing that there's something else that can be done with the diet actually out there. And medication has its place, don't get me wrong, but there's something that can be just done around the diet, and we're not being advised that as one of the interventions alongside medication. So during my nutrition course, that was really stressful. So just like my weight was up and down, and it was stress can make you just put on weight despite a really good diet. So just still those kind of like struggles, but I went to see a nutritional therapist as well while I was studying nutrition, because sometimes you need the help, and you have to accept that you need the help. And one of the best thing that the nutritional therapist just taught me about at the time was about blood sugar balance. And I had no idea what blood sugar balance, but it was obvious from an early age that actually I had issues around my blood sugar management. I remember my parents saying just in the morning when I got up, don't speak to her before she has a breakfast. She's really grumpy. I was really shaky and hungry as well if my meals were delayed. So it was a really big revelation in terms of blood sugar management. Actually, is really just the foundation for quite a lot of things, including including weight loss. So, and then when I graduated from nutrition, obviously you want to try to help everyone. But I think that it's a quote that actually I heard yesterday, and I thought it's actually really really fits the purpose. It's you are best equipped to help the person that you used to be. So that's why actually I just like going through my own struggles around weight and having tried it all, and having those mindset kind of issues, and I think that that's what just really sparked my interest in weight loss. And I've been just like all around the bush with weight management. Is it a good thing to want to lose weight? Is it a bad thing to want to lose weight? So before I decided just to specialize, really, it's it just took me a long time just to specialize. But I think that as women, everyone, well, or most women actually just want to find a sustainable way of losing the weight, or healthier way, especially if they've tried a lot of things before.
Yeah, definitely. And I think probably pretty much everyone listening can resonate with your story of trying all those different things, and also going to the doctors and not really getting much help. I've spoken to lots of women who have kind of turned things around, using their nutrition or similar kind of alternative therapies, and they've gone to their doctor to say, look what I've done, I've brought down my HbA1c, or diabetes marker, or brought down my cholesterol, or reversed my fatty liver, and the doctors kind of just look at them and say, so like as if they don't really believe them that they've managed to do that with just kind of natural interventions. So it's amazing that you were able to do that in such a short amount of time as well. And what do you think for you was like the thing that really made the difference so that you could get into a good place with, the way that you approach your weight management?
Well, first it was being just really honest with myself, because I used to say always just like, well, I know I'm overweight, but I'm healthy. Actually, I couldn't bend down just to tie up my, shoelaces without having any pain in my belly. I had IBS. Then it was just like also finding, why do I want to lose weight? I think that just, if you want to lose weight, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to lose weight, that's absolutely fine as well. But you need just to have this kind of why that just anchors you. And it's much more about, beyond the aesthetics, it's much more what is this weight loss enable you to do that you're not able to do now as well. And what made the difference as well is just to reach out for help, actually, without feeling that actually it's a sign of failure. So just like, if you need the help, that's fine. Just reach out for help and don't feel like you failed, because you're asking someone you can't always just try to fix yourself. I've tried numerous times, but sometimes you need just to accept, okay, it's time to get some help.
Yeah, and working on yourself is the hardest thing. I mean, you and me and Lara, we are all experienced and qualified in nutrition, and yet, we have our own things come up, and we're always asking each other for guidance, aren't we? Because it's very difficult to work on yourself, even when much more than the average person. Even when you've got all the tools and resources, it's just very difficult to work on yourself. And I think it's just one of those things where getting an objective look at what's going on with you and what things you might need to focus on makes the world of difference. Now, you obviously have done some extra training in the mindset side of things. So how did you come to decide to go that extra step and do the mindset training?
Okay, so when I started, just like when I was trained as a nutritionist, we were not taught so much about mindset. It was just much more about the food that you need and the kind of exercise and lifestyle techniques. But actually, there's so much more to weight loss than just food and exercise. We can just see it in terms of, like, for instance, overcoming barriers, which are just like a big issue with pretty much like all the clients. Just like all the barriers that we put in our way, or just like external barriers as well. So when I was just talking to my clients, it was just like, okay, I just needed to help them a bit more than just like advising them on just like food, exercise, and lifestyle. And it was just like kind of unpicking what's going on in their head, really, and just like making them talk things through. So there's a big emphasis on, for instance, people that have always tried to lose weight always say to me, like, oh, I've fallen off the track, when they just don't make better choices. And there's a lot of kind of reflection on them, this kind of like weight loss pursuit and the ability to lose weight on who they are as a person. So they just think like, well, I can't lose weight, so I'm a failure, I'm a bad person for making the bad choices and so on. And it's like, okay, we need to unpick that, because that's just really holding you back. So there's so much to unpick when it comes to weight loss.
And people that are having issues around food, and when I say issues around food, I mean that could be disordered eating, or it could be feelings of guilt around eating. It could be secret eating, or it could be like a really negative relationship with food. People that have these issues, do you think they are usually aware of them? Are they coming to you and saying that I've got these issues, or is it more that you're seeing these issues in people and you're helping them to work through them?
They might not just admit that they have like issues around, food or their relationship with food, but it will just come up in the conversation, and then it's just like, okay, well, actually it just goes back quite, a long way. Typically there's, just like things like labeling food good or bad, rather than, okay, there's some better choices and not so good choices. So sometimes the issue is with the food in themselves, and sometimes it's with the relationship with food, which is two different things. I see lots of clients with emotional eating. So when we talk about emotional eating, emotions are actually the issue is not so much food. Food is only the tool. I was talking actually to a client this week about that, and the food only happens to be there. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it's accessible. Some people just prefer just to do drugs, but it's like it's much harder just to get, and not so it's expensive and things like that. If you know what I mean. But food is just like you just need to walk to your kitchen and it's there. So food is only the tool. So in terms of emotional eating, we just need to just look at emotions rather than food. Which is much more like around the relationship with food. There's a lot of issues around food that just stems from their childhood. So I'm sure, well, you and me have probably just like heard about it, like finish your plate because there's so many kids starving in the world. So then when people just have like a plate of food, they don't feel that they can just throw away the leftovers or just box them. They just have to just finish their plate even if they're not hungry. And how are we going to help children starving in the world by just finishing our plate? Because that's another conversation. But you've also heard probably just like you're going to only have your pudding if you eat your vegetables. And also when you're a child, just, you have a fall or you just have a disagreement with a friend and things like that. And your parents will say, oh, just come, I'll just give you a biscuit or lollipop or something like that. So using food as comfort. So there's really a scale of things from disordered eating to eating disorder, and even just being in some ways just like too obsessed with food and health, like we just talked about orthorexia, is actually it's just not healthy. So it's you can't be all or nothing, and yes, just food is food, and I think that there's a lot of I think people tend to place some moral value on food as well, just like well, this food is good or this food is bad. Well, food has no moral value at all. It's just food at the end of the day. But I see a lot of issues around food and relationship with food.
And one thing that I often talk about with clients is about how no food is only good or only bad. All foods have different aspects to them, and even the healthiest foods that are absolutely packed with nutrients are gonna have things in them that aren't perfectly good for us, and we can have too much of those really, really good foods, and so it's about getting that balance of a variety of foods rather than trying to only eat good foods and then falling off the wagon and having the bad foods. And I think that's something that a lot of people take quite a long time to kind of just get right in their head, with not seeing foods as good or bad or fattening or slimming or that sort of thing, diet food or not diet food, treat food. All these words that we use around food are really not helpful, are they?
No, they're not, and it's too much of a if you have too much of a healthy food, it's like it can just be detrimental as well. It just if you just like it, and we're all individual at the end of the day as well. A food that is considered healthy for someone, just like let's talk strawberries for instance, it's just like, well, maybe it just doesn't agree with you for whatever reason, even if it's a healthy food. So we have to take, I think the context is really important, just taking things into context as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're talking about the orthorexia side of things, and the people who are obsessed about getting everything right and eating really, really healthily. We see a few people come through the program that are very much leaning towards that side of things, and they are ones who tend to kind of make slower progress at first because they're almost like their own worst enemy. It's like they overthink things and just can't kind of relax and let kind of let their body do the healing. They always want to be doing something more. And so, I think just taking a step back and allowing your body to heal and to just follow the process basically, and trust that what you're doing is going to work for you, rather than trying to constantly do more and more is really key.
It's not about being angelic or perfection. It's about finding the right balance, and how is the food that you're eating at the meal, and not having the stress around meals is going just to help you to have more balance in your life as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that a lot of people listening, and certainly a lot of women that I talk to, tell me that they feel like they're a lost cause. And part of the reason why they can feel like that is because they feel like they've tried everything, much like you had previously, and things aren't working, or they just can't keep things off consistently, or they can't keep up with that lifestyle. And some people feel like a lost cause because they know that they have issues around food, and they find themselves comfort eating and that sort of thing. But you're proof that all of this is overcomable. So what do you think is something that listeners could do to just get them moving in the right direction and getting some traction with their progress?
Okay, so that's a good question, because when it comes to any kind of logic is thrown out of the window. So we reach for the sledgehammer, we take drastic action, we feel that we have to change everything overnight, and we also expect results overnight. We set ourselves some crazy goals, and we really make it much harder than it needs to be. But I would say just like only do one thing at a time, even if you want to start with something that you know that you can't fail at. So just a small thing at a time. Just don't try to do it everything. So what works really well for most clients is actually just to start with a really good breakfast. It means like no toast, no cereals, no scraping breakfast, but having some protein. Obviously, just you have to find something that will set you, well for. I find that just like changing the breakfast is something that just sets people well for the day to make better choices during the day. But just don't try to do it everything perfectly at the same time. You're going just to lose, you're going to last maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, months, 3 months, but then it's going just to, you're going to set yourself back actually, because it's going to backfire. So just only just choose one thing at a time, do it well, and move on, build on. But just like it's all about building habits, it's about lifestyle, creating lifestyle change, lifestyle habits. So it takes time. Don't expect, change overnight and expect results overnight. It just doesn't happen like that. Especially if you've been on a number of diets before. It takes time for the body to heal. So it takes time. It's the reality, and you have to kind of accept that it just takes time. See only the weight as another symptom, not as I want to achieve that weight by that time. Be realistic with your goals. Just the weight is just another symptom of something happening in the body, and I think that's the main thing.
I think that's a really important message, that the weight is a symptom. And I think, a lot of people do see the weight loss as being the marker of progress and the first thing that should happen. But actually, for so many of the women that we work with, weight loss is kind of the last thing that happens, because the weight loss is a symptom of the imbalances, is a symptom of, the thyroid being imbalanced, or the gut being imbalanced, or there being inflammation or hormone imbalances, deficiencies, intolerances, mindset issues. And it's all of those things that are causing that weight to be really stubborn. And actually, it's addressing those issues that are going to result in the weight coming off consistently and staying off, as opposed to it being the other way around, where you're going to lose weight to fix those other issues. Because we certainly have people coming to us who say, I've got IBS and I've got hormone issues and all these other things, and they think that losing the weight is going to help to fix those problems, but actually it's the other way around. And fixing those underlying issues is going to help with the weight loss in the long term, if they want to keep that weight off in the long term.
Yeah, and just one thing that I wanted to add also on that kind of question that you asked before. You can't take things in isolation. You can't just say like, I have a good diet, but actually I've done that mistake. So that's why I'm just like sharing it. I have a good diet, but actually I'm not exercising, I'm not sleeping well, I'm super stressed, and I'm not taking supplements. Everything has to work together. So it's not only just the exercise, just the diet, just the stress, just the supplements. You can't take, one thing and say like, it's going to be the magic thing. I've tried myself. So just like good diet, but no exercise, no supplement, didn't work. Exercise, but not a good diet, no supplement, didn't work. Supplements by themselves, with an okay diet, and no exercise, didn't work. So everything has to fall into place, and it's diet, exercise, mindset, lifestyle in terms of stress, sleep, and things like that. So you have just to look at the kind of like 360 picture. You can't take one thing in isolation and just say like, okay, it's going to be the magic thing. And it's the same for the body systems. We were talking about the hormones and the IBS and things like that. So it all works together. So everything has to fall into place.
Yeah. And, that's another reason why it takes time, partly because we have to work with all the body systems together and get all of those things in alignment and balance, but also because working on your mindset, your diet, your sleep, your all these other things that we mentioned, working on all of those takes time. And we talk about doing one thing at a time, and doing that makes it achievable and sustainable. But of course, doing one thing at a time means it's going to take a little while to be working on all of these different areas. But I love your advice of starting with one thing where you can't fail, because what better way to get momentum on your weight loss journey? And certainly breakfast, in my books, breakfast is always a good place to start, because if you set your day up properly, then it's so much more likely that you're going to be able to continue making good food choices and have good energy throughout the day and minimize your cravings and just set yourself up for a good day and a good week, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Christelle. It's been so interesting talking to you, and I hope that our listeners have found it helpful to kind of put things into perspective and see that, you're living proof that it is absolutely possible to lose weight and do it in a healthy, sustainable way, without faddy dieting. Obviously, you've done your fair share of diets, it sounds like, but the way that has got you to where you are now is to take a more holistic approach. So I really hope that the listeners have enjoyed hearing your story, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you'd like to talk to me about anything that we've discussed in this episode, you can reach me on Facebook and Instagram by searching at Louise Digby Nutrition. If you're enjoying this podcast, please head to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and click follow or subscribe and leave a review. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.